So welcome everybody to the September Financial Affairs Committee meeting. Let's begin with a roll call, starting with Mr. Epps. Present.
Pam Henry, present.
Present. Okay, if you just say your name, just because I'm on call. Oh, and everyone's chewing.
Charles Burdell Williams, present. Sorry, Ron.
David Cohen, present.
Leah Mulhern, present.
Jennifer Lohman, present.
Joel Fishbein, present.
Julie Haywood, present.
And Dan Schultz, present. The next item on the agenda is approval of minutes for June, if I'm correct. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Burdell Williams first. Second from Ms. Mulhern. All in favor? Aye. And now we can go to the core of the agenda. Mr. Swigart.
Thank you very much, Dan. So first on tonight's agenda, Whitson's wanted to do a year-end recap presentation, 22-23 school year. So we thought this was the perfect medium to do it. We've been working with Whitson's all year as part of our food service department. So let me open up their presentation. I'll turn it over to them.
Thanks, Josh. For whoever does not know me, hi, my name is Vanessa. I am the general manager with Whitson's Culinary Group here at Cheltenham. I just kind of want to go over this food service year in review and just kind of give you an update. What you are currently munching on, which is why everybody's kind of chewing and talking at the same time, is our updated pizza for the high school and the updated burger. So I'll give you a little bit more information about that. I just want to kind of open up with that. So currently, Cheltenham School District is on the National School Lunch Program, and we have been doing this for the past year. And to give you a little bit of an update, the National School Lunch Program is a federally assisted meal program operating in public and nonprofit private schools and residential child care institutions. It provides nutritionally balanced, low-cost or no-cost lunches to children each school day. The Food and Nutrition Service of the United States Department of Agriculture administrates the program at the federal level. At the state level, the National School Lunch Program is administered by state agencies which operate the program through agreements with school food authorities. National School Lunch Program institutions must serve lunches that meet federal meal pattern requirements and offer the lunches at a free or reduced price to eligible children. This is also why what you're currently eating is on whole grain bread. The crust is whole grain. The rolls are also whole grain on the burgers as well. So talking about offer versus serve, schools must offer all 5 components in at least the minimum required quantities. A food component is one of the 5 required food groups in reimbursable lunches. So every day when the students come through our lines, they have to have a meat alternative, a grain option, a fruit, a vegetable, or a milk. That's the 5 components. They are allowed to have 3 of those 5 components for it to be considered a meal. One of them has to be a fruit or vegetable. And as you can see, what I just stated is kind of on the bottom. So the required 5 food components must be offered for school lunch. Students must select at least 3 of the 5 required food components, including at least half a cup of fruit or vegetable to have a reimbursable lunch. You skip one. There we go. So just to let you know, some of the nutritional requirements for the National School Lunch Program as of 2023 is that we have sodium limits. Whitson's actually, with our recipes that we currently use, are under these sodium limits per meal. So it states we haven't needed to change anything in our current purchasing standards for recipes. We are fully compliant.
Question. Just recently, we were made aware that there's some conversations around those limits being reduced over the next year or so. Is that something you all are tracking, or?
Yes. Yes. Our company with we have nutritionists. That's what nutritionists are. Multiple dietitians on our staff, so they will be looking at all these requirements. They will update our recipes as needed. So if there's things that we need to change, they'll let us know, send out updates, and we'll have to reprint all the recipes that have changed and give it out to our schools. Plus, they're also always doing updates as far as our products that we purchase. If there's anything that does not meet the requirements of the National School Lunch Program, they will discontinue that product and get something that does meet the current standards. Just to give you an idea, for whole grains, at least 80% of the weekly grains in school lunch and breakfast menus are required to be whole grain rich in place of the 100% requirement prior to 2018. Final rule, 50% allowance under an approved COVID flexibility waiver Whitson's actions. We're keeping in line with our Simply Rooted philosophy and offering healthier and higher quality meals that exceed state and federal regulations. We will continue to meet 100% whole grain rich criteria. So this is why if you see any of our breakfast items that come out, everything starts with a whole grain as a first ingredient. This includes muffins, all of our cereals, our cereal bars, as well as all of our breads that are served in school are whole grain wheat bread. So our year in review, for the high school, we converted the high school to National School Lunch Program, which gives students access to healthier, more nutritious foods. We opened the senior annex as a line to serve pizza, hot sandwiches, and cold sandwiches, and a variety of a la carte items. This assisted in student wait times, pop-ups, and a la carte sales. Coyote Grill, which combined the existing salad bar with the Coyote Grill that quickly became the most popular station serving nacho bowls, tacos, and taco salads daily. If you're none familiar with the high school, our serving lines are currently 3 horseshoes. So sometimes they get a little bottlenecked, especially when we switched over to the 1 lunch period. So having the senior annex hopefully allow some of the little excess flow, move the students through a little bit faster so they have time to eat and then do any other activities that they need to do. So our life skills collaborations, we did a unified coffee bar. This is a coffee bar that ran every Friday where life skills students prepared and delivered pre-ordered breakfast items and coffee to teachers. 10% of the proceeds were given to the life skills class. We also had an internship with 2 students that came twice a week to assist in preparing food, bagging breakfast, and baking fruit during the day. And we also had 2 students that were on our co-op program. One of the students was at Wingfoot Elementary, and the other student was at Cedar Brook Middle School. Both the students engaged with the prepping of food, washing dishes, and also interacting with some of the students on the serving line. And what's nice is both of those students graduated last year. They have now come back and are fully hired as our full-time staff members with us. And we are hoping to continue this collaboration with the skills program. I have a meeting with them in about 2 weeks, and hopefully we can have more students come in to do the internships so we can continue the coffee bar. So we find it really successful, and our staff loves working with students.
Question on that.
Sure.
Were those special needs?
Yes. So they were high functioning special needs students. So the interns were higher functioning, so they have to be able to work independently. Now our staff would stand with them and show them and guide them and stuff. And then we also have the 2 that were hired are very high functioning, so they could work more independently, and they also could walk to the buildings as well. So they would start out at the high school, and then after their classes were done, they would walk to either Cedar Brook or Wingfoot Elementary and join us for lunch service. So our breakfast program, we implemented free breakfast at all locations. So every school now offers free breakfast. So when the kids come in, they can get their pre-packaged breakfast, which most of them order the day before, especially in the elementary schools. The middle school and high school, they do just walk up and grab it if they would like it. We do track all this information as well. And as far as caterings, we just offer a variety of caterings, which if anybody's here on board, you guys kind of see me because I'm here all the time. So we did some pop-ups around the district. One of this, so the top one is actually, yeah, that is what that's, comes out with the Yardbird or the spicy one.
It's the Yardbird.
So that's our Yardbird, which is Whitson's take on a Chick-fil-A sandwich. So what we do is we bring in our culinary chef who's kind of works with multiple districts. They'll come in for the day, prep the products, and help us serve. So it's just kind of a special offering for the day that we can do for the students. The bottom one is the Soul Taco. And Corey, you have a comment about the Instagram post for Cedar Brook?
So the Soul Taco pop-up was Cedar Brook's most liked Instagram post of the year. Not that I tracked it. It was a great day.
Yeah, for Cedar Brook, it was the highest day as far as meal sales. And for the high school, it was Nashville Hot Chicken. That day was the biggest one that we did. And we're looking to do a couple more this year. I'm hoping to start them up in October. And we actually want to branch these out to the elementary schools and not just the secondary schools.
What
give
day
the
is the
little kids.
Nashville lunch?
When I know, I will make sure it's on the menu and so you guys have access to everything. So one of the things we did last year was a farmer's market. This picture is actually at Wingcoat, and I can speak for this one. What we did is we partnered with the Common Market, who supplies local produce from local farms. And we made little, basically, gift baskets for the kids. We did not realize how big some of the butternut squash were gonna be. And watching a 6-year-old walk out with this big bag of butternut squash. However, the kids loved it. So it was just a giveaway for everybody. They received a butternut squash, a watermelon beet, a regular beet, and I think we did like a Bosc pear. We also had inside of it was a pamphlet with some recipes and just giving the kids some information. And Josh, if you go to the next one for me. This young kid decided to go home and make the butternut squash with his family and then send us an email about how much they enjoyed it. So it's nice. So we're looking to do that again this year. Probably gonna try to pick something a little bit smaller, it's easier to carry. I also wanna try to do it in the springtime, and we wanna pick items that some of the kids don't necessarily get to see all the time. So there's some things that you will see, maybe a beet or two in the grocery store, but you've never seen watermelon beets. It's not a very common thing to see. So we're gonna look for things like that to kind of broaden the horizons of the students. And we'll do the same thing as far as giving them out a little packet with recipes. And we also want to spread this to the high school, see how they enjoy it, and a couple other different schools in the district. So the girls' soccer team tasting. This is what you guys are benefiting from today. So in August, we had the girls' soccer team come in. Chef Tony from New York, who's our corporate chef, come down. And again, there have been some complaints about some of the food, I'll be honest. So we wanted to see what the issue was. So Chef Tony made a couple different varieties of pizza. He did some with special sauce, some with different crust, some changing the cheese or the cheese ratio. What we actually found out is that they prefer the pizza how we were making it. But if you can taste the crust, there is a slight garlic knot flavor to it. So what we did is we added the garlic oil that's on all the pizza to begin with, but put it on the crust after it comes out and sprinkle it with Parmesan cheese. It's a little bit more flavor. You don't really taste that it's wheat as much. Also keeps the dough a little bit more moist. We also tested our burgers. Surprisingly, the burgers were pretty much the same, except a slight cooking change. The burger that you tasted today was cooked in a beef broth, so it stays a little bit more moist, so it's not as dry when the students get it. So we're hoping that with these changes, the students are enjoying it. I can tell you right now, we implemented these changes also at the middle school. We cannot keep pizza in stock right now. We are still trying to adjust the numbers because every day the numbers are going up as far as how many pizzas we're making. So it's been a good thing. It's good feedback. This is just to show you our meal counts for breakfast. As you can see, March was the highest, and it was also the days that we were the most in school. So it's going to be that way. But overall, breakfast was increasing as the school year went on. Elkins Park started doing breakfast in the classroom and went from doing about 150 to 200 breakfast to over 400 on a daily basis. Wingcoat started out with giving it in 2 locations. They were averaging about 100, and then by the end of the year, we were averaging close to 230 to 240 breakfast. High school and middle school, they are actually our lowest for breakfast. Some of the kids, I guess, like to sleep a little bit later. They don't necessarily want breakfast when they first come in. They're not fully awake as far as high school students. Some of them drive, they're gonna pick up breakfast on the road. Excuse me. For lunch, as you can see, we did pretty well overall with numbers, steadily increasing as it's gone on. We've also taken some of the suggestions. We're trying to vary the menus, offer some more plant-based items, offer more grab-and-go items. That is one of my focuses this year for the high school. Because of the lines being so long, we want to have more grab-and-go options so the kids can get in line and go. They don't have to wait to be served. So we had surveys that were done in April for all of the schools. This included parents, students, and staff. So this is, we just picked some of the questions. What do you think is the most important for school meals? Out of 185 people served, the highest number was balanced nutrition. Most of them are stating. The next one was that the meals are made from scratch. We try to make as much from scratch within reason. Please slow down, Josh.
Just be careful if I switch.
Yep, do whatever you gotta do.
Make it easier to see.
No problem. There we go. What would you like to see added to your school nutrition program to help meet the demands for sustainable plant-based meals? They're asking us to offer a large variety of plant-based menu options. So every school will have at least 2 to 3 days on their menu that we are offering plant-based meals. This includes the little kids at the elementary schools. The high school and the middle school, we do offer more options. There's more variety for them. But we are also incorporating to make sure that all the elementary schools have garden salads available daily. So it's an option for them. And when we do, if we do happen to have burgers, we do offer a garden burger for the kids to choose from as well. Instead of just regular chicken nuggets, we have been doing buffalo meatless nuggets. And believe it or not, they are a hit. We cannot keep them in stock. Is healthy eating important to you and your family? Most people say yes. So please explain why you do not eat at school meals regularly. Some of the students, they were not happy with how the pizza did, which is why we did the survey and we changed everything. Students do not like the whole grain bread. Unfortunately, because we're on the National School Lunch Program, it is one of the requirements. However, if we start noticing that there is an issue with the bread, I will go back to our vendors and say, hey, they are having issues with the bread, it's not staying as fresh, it's crumbling too much. Is there a different option we can say within the National School Lunch Program? So we are looking at that as well. The overall theme of the teachers' comments are about variety, healthiness, and time in line. So this is something that we're trying to work with the district on, is to either have at the high school, for instance, let the annex be more where the teachers can go grab their meals and get through faster because there's not as many lines. As far as district employees, we're trying to set up an ordering system so that the district employees can also get some food as well. And then our goals. We want to do more tastings. We want to have more student, parent, teacher, staff surveys. We will have one in October, another one in April. Back to school night. I will be at back to school night. I will be at Winco. So I will have representatives at all of the buildings for the elementary schools, and then I will see everybody most likely at Elkins Park, Cedar Brook, and at the high school we will be doing a tasting to kind of offer a little bit more and let the parents know. We're hoping that we can work with Mr. DeAndre to get the parents to come into the cafeteria, not just walk by us. We want them to see what we have to offer. We want to do some nutritional education. This way I can offer more just information to the students. Make it available to the parents and to the students. If there's any questions, we have brochures, our marketing team is fantastic, things like that. We want to do more of the farmers markets. So there's a possible collaboration with Farmer John. I don't know if anybody knows of this. It's a local farming company. I think they are working with, is it the Cheltenham States? Elkins States. We're hoping to do a collaboration with them. That's still in the works currently. So maybe we can bring them in to kind of talk to the kids just about what they do as far as the farming and how they're local and sustainable. Again, we want to offer more expansive menu to teachers and staff district-wide. And we're hoping at some point to maybe do coffee and smoothies in the annex, depending on how it's going over there. So, and then we also want to get involved more with student advisory committees. I did talk with Mr. Metcalf at the middle school today. I will be sitting down with him and a group of students just to kind of talk to them, get some feedback, see what they are interested in, what they would like to see more of. This is something I want to do a little bit more of with each school. And that's it. Anybody have any questions?
We'll go to the board first. Are there any board questions? Same.
Just a really basic question. You said the milk options are like 1%, 2%. Offers itself or what do you do?
So currently, we do
Sorry.
not,
We can't hear you back here,
Oh,
actually.
from the, yeah, what milk alternatives are there, like soy or
Thank you.
options?
so currently, we don't offer any of the soy milk or the nut milks, but we do have a lactose-free option for them, and the strawberry milk and chocolate milk is actually fat-free. And then we do have a low-fat milk option. If it's something that we can get in and within allergy restrictions, it's something we would be looking into.
Any other board questions?
I don't have a question, I was just a comment. I love all the healthy option stuff. I mean, really sea change from not very long ago. And it sounds like it's requirements coming out of USDA, but it's great that we're implementing it all. And these kids are obviously aware it's important.
No, thank you. And one of the things, just to kind of let you know, is we do get produce through the government. We did bring in the last week, fresh peaches, fresh nectarines, fresh plums, and blueberries. So stuff that's not always necessarily available throughout the whole year, but when we can get it, we're gonna get it. We're gonna offer it just as fresh fruit options. So when the kids come through the line, because they have to choose their fruit, it's not just a canned option or an apple or an orange. We can get nicer stuff for them, and we are trying to get it in when it's available. You're welcome. Yes.
2-second comment just on the large butternut squashes. I have a child at Woodcote, and when those kids got off the bus that day, we have a very large bus stop. And I mean, like there were like one kid, the bag was coming up, they were huge, but kids were so happy, they were so excited to show their parents or whoever was at the bus stop what they had, and they're comparing, but it was very cute. It was a sight to see.
Yeah, it was, I felt so bad trying to watch them go walk
They
out.
did not seem upset at all. They felt very, I think they felt, and especially the little ones felt very grown up, right? That they got to bring this home. So
They got their little shopping bag. I mean, it was a little brown bag with handles, so it was a little shopping bag that they walked out with. It was absolutely
yeah, it
adorable.
was very sweet.
Yeah.
Just one comment, is the pizza was delicious.
Thank
And
you.
the crust was good, and I'm not a crust eater. But
Yeah, that's good.
so it works.
Glad. This is what we want to do. We want to sit down, and if there's things we can change, we want to change. As long as it's within reason and we can do it, we will do it.
I do have an actual question. I'm curious, and I don't know if it's kind of improved. It seemed initially with free breakfasts last year that it sounded to me like there may have been more waste than we would have liked, where you're getting, unlike lunch, you're not picking and choosing. I guess I don't know if
So-
we figured out how to.
Kind of. The way that, in the beginning, it was a little difficult to try to see how it would work best.
Yeah.
And now we've kind of honed it in where they order it the day before, so if the kids want it, they tell the teacher, we have little rosters, they check off their names, it comes down, we know exactly how many to send up to the classroom. What's nice is most of the teachers have refrigerators, so if there is any milk left over, they can save it. They also sometimes save it for snack later on in the afternoon if somebody's hungry. But we have cut down a lot on waste.
Actually, we can go.
Actually, just sort of piggybacking on the waste question, and wondering about the utensils and the dishware and everything like that. Are we using plastic? Are we using reusable?
So all of it is sustainable and compostable within the district. So all of the silverware, all of the trays, all of the containers, like our to-go containers, are all either recyclable or compostable. And that is something that we have stayed with the district. It was one of the initiatives that we agreed to, and we have stuck with it. There is no foam to be found in this district. And if there is, for any reason, it would be a substitute, and I would let the district know that, hey, we ordered one thing, this is what they sent us, just so us to be able to use it, but we would like you guys to know ahead of time. Most of the kids right now have the cardboard fiber trays. It's a little 5-compartment tray, but it is fully recyclable. Any other questions?
So did you still have a question?
That
was it. I had one comment, which was, so first, thank you. Thank you.
You're right.
I noticed in the survey that there was very low respondents from the elementary school. And maybe that was by design, maybe it wasn't, but I just wanted to give that feedback since you're going to be doing future surveys. might be worth trying to find ways to.
So one of the things I want to do is I want to partner with Kevin, who's part of the social media, and get that out and available. And I also want to make it available to the principals and to the staff, let them know, hey, this is here. Please take the survey, because we want to hear from the teachers as well. And then this way we can also let the parents know if they send little like Friday flyers, things like that to go home with them, for them to be able to do it. Normally it's a QR code that they can scan and take the survey.
The other comment is, I have getting two kids in Myers, wow. I actually wasn't aware that you could, as a parent, that you could ask for breakfast the next morning. Like the pre-order form hasn't trickled at least to my kids' classroom. So I just wanted to mention that in case there's a communication flow.
So I know that the teachers at Myers do it.
Right.
I have seen it. I don't know if it might be a specific teacher, because I can always work with Mr. Lytle if there is something.
And I'm not trying to debug my situation.
No,
It's just as an anecdote, there might be room for more systemic communication around that function to make sure everyone's.
Yeah, I
It
definitely
sounds
wanna-
like it's been growing.
Yeah, I'm trying to work with all the principals to try to get all of us on the same page to make it a little easier for everybody. I do know that they're trying their best as far as some of the rosters. It's getting there. We're getting better as we go on. Definitely is getting better.
Really great to see all this progress.
Good, thank you.
Are there any questions from the public in person? Seeing none, I see a red light, so is there any questions online? That might be something we'll do.
If they were regarding the size of the presentation, just switched off.
That said, if there are any questions for the participants online, please feel free to raise your hand or post something in Q&A. But if not, I think we'll move on. Thank you.
You're very welcome. If anybody has any questions, or feel free to email me. My information is on the website. And then I can always answer directly there. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice, yeah.
That was good.
Is there any more finance or is facilities? Are we moving to facilities or is there?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I saw that agenda.
Stuff on there.
She's got spreadsheets.
All right, I'm not moving yet.
I don't have my extra thick glasses on, so I All right, so back to the agenda. We have Whitson's first on the agenda, so I'll move on to the next item. As always, at every finance meeting, we take a look at our district balance sheet and where we stand at the end of each month, and we compare it to the prior year. So again, taking a look at our cash situation. Let me get the pointer. We have a strong cash position in the district, showing an increase of $7.1 million year over year. That can be attributed to another strong financial performance for the year ended June 30th, 2023. Given the amount of volume of tonight's agenda and the amount of information we have to absorb in the informational executive session, as well as the facilities meeting, next month we'll talk about the projected or the anticipated year-end results and how 2023 worked out. We still do have some minor immaterial journal entries to close out the year, but where it currently stands, we're right now sitting around a $9 million surplus year over year for the 2023 school year. So as I said, next month we'll take an in-depth look about how that worked itself out, where the changes were in revenues, where the changes were in expenditures, and we'll dig into that number. But for now, you can see that's primarily sitting in cash. And so far to date, a very strong balance sheet. When we go down here and we look at revenues, we collected $69 million through August 31st versus last year. We recorded $70 million. There's some slight differences in local taxes and the speed at which we're collecting some of our state taxes. On the expenditure side, It looks like we have extreme expenditure growth from year to year, but it's due to the payroll cycle. We had an extra payroll this time versus this time last year. And that's with our entire staff, not just our support staff, but our professional staff, which is the bulk of our payroll and 70% of district expenses. So this sheet highlights the differences with the delay in passing the state budget that delayed the timing in which we got some of the revenues that were due to the district. We still haven't collected any federal revenues yet this year. We anticipate that shortly. We look at increases in regular instruction and special instruction. These are primarily teacher salaries and special education teacher salaries. And again, that's because of the additional payroll. Any questions on the interim financial statements through us? Starting off the chart, it looks really scary. These are actually revenues though. So again, we anticipate the real estate tax collections through the end of September and October in a very drastic leveling off. And we hope that this expenditure line does not exceed revenues by the end of the year. All right, moving on to CPAS. So on tonight's agenda, we had a very positive and strong financial finish through June 30th, 2023. That isn't to say that we didn't have some areas in which the district still needs to improve upon and in which we were experiencing losses. So one of those areas is CPAS, which stands for the Southeastern Pennsylvania Schools Trust. And that is the name given to our health insurance trust through which we buy all of our health insurance for our employees. So what it is it's a group of school districts in Montgomery County who pull their resources together to purchase administratively health insurance through Independence Blue Cross. Our claims are our claims. Our claims are specific to each district, as it is a self-insured trust, but the medical insurance is provided through the contracts of Independence Blue Cross. And for the prescription side, it's Capital RX is our prescription carrier. So, in looking at our claims, which are specific to Cheltenham School District, we pay our premiums into the trust. The trust holds our premiums in our own specific account, essentially. As we incur claims, they're drawn down from that account, and we have a beginning balance of money invested in the trust at the beginning of the year and money at the end of the year. So I really simply summarize the activity in the trust over the past 2 years. At the beginning of the 21-22 school year, we had a residual balance in the trust of approximately $4 million. When we look at our medical and vision premiums and claims expense and our prescription premiums and claims expense, we ended the year losing closely $1 million, and that was after an increase of 8% in medical insurance premiums. So what caused the losses in those funds? It would be the overall general growth in medical costs. I believe the industry average is roughly 8% per year. The richness of some of the plans at Cheltenham, we have yet to adapt in some of our more stagnant contracts. Some of the changes that other districts and other organizations have already occurred, and that would be prescription changes, cost management plans written into medical policies. It would be formulary plans written into prescription drug policies. So little steps that we're a little bit behind the eight ball in taking, partially due to the contractual and collective bargaining nature of the school district, that we need to catch up with other districts, with other organizations, so we can kind of match that and not experience the greater than the 8% claim growth that's industry standard. So when we look into 22-23, we ended 21 with $2.9 million in our trust, and then we ended this last year with $2.2 million, so an additional $700,000 drained from the trust due to increasing claims costs. All right, so looking back on what CPAS is, So we talked about that it's self-insured and our claims are run through Independence Blue Cross contracts. We talked about Capital Rx being the prescription provider. So what makes CPAS done different than other school district self-insured health insurance trusts? Well, it's the way the trust is managed. It's managed through trustees of school districts, which are appointed administrators. There are other trusts out there that are joint collective bargaining, joint administrative leadership and trustees. There are other trusts out there that are I'll call them more blind. You don't get to see all of your claims data. You don't get to see. You just pay into the trust and a separate group of trustees kind of managing and making the best decisions on the group of the trustee. But CPAS is kind of your standard organized trust, and where you get a county where all of the school districts come together and use their large purchasing power to leverage better contracts with Independence Blue Cross or Aetna or whoever the larger major medical carrier is. Any questions on CPAS? All right, and the last thing I wanted to touch upon, I didn't want to load this tonight with a whole bunch of agenda items given the time restriction, but I wanted to give an update on where the state budget ended up being passed and what we have budgeted for at the end of last year, the budget that the district passed. So the district passed a budget with $6.2 million basic education subsidy. The state came around and passed a historic $6.8 million in basic education subsidy to Cheltenham School District. So that's $591,000 more than what we anticipated. Just to put that in perspective, last year the state awarded Cheltenham School District $6 million in budgeted subsidy. You typically wouldn't see an $800,000 jump year to year, hence I did not budget an $800,000 jump year to year, but it was a rather historic year in terms of funding for school districts. So that's instant savings that comes right back to the school district. For special education subsidy, I budgeted about $3,075,000. The actual special education subsidy came in at $3,053,000, so I was attached to it. Property tax relief was essentially the same as promised, and that was passed by the budget. It's essentially the same as the regular block grant. Last year, we received a school mental health and school security grant in the amount of $329,000. Because there was some controversy amongst the political division at the state level, I did not budget any money because I was unsure as to whether that measure would be passed. It is one of the items that is still yet to be passed by the state budget and may indeed be passed by the state budget, but it's still somewhat in limbo. So I didn't budget it, and the state didn't pass it yet. So right now we're kind of neutral. Some of the items you may have heard that have not yet been approved by the state is the level up basic education subsidy. Those are additional basic ed subsidies for the most impoverished school districts in the state, which would not be Cheltenham School District, so that piece of the budget does not impact our district. If you heard anything about that, that does not have an impact on Cheltenham School District. Most of what we need to be passed that impacts us has already been passed as part of the state budget. There are a couple miscellaneous school environmental grants. They're not large dollar amounts per district, but they also haven't been passed as well. Any questions on the state budget?
Mr. Epps. Thanks for the presentation. The special education subsidy, overall budget, there was an increase in special education?
Yes, last year, $2.9 million was allocated to Cheltenham School District. This year, the state increased that number to $3,053,000.
We just projected higher. It actually came in.
I tried to guesstimate what the increase would be.
Okay. We're really close.
So some school districts take a hardline budgeting approach. We aren't going to budget for state money until it's passed. Given the nature of taxes here in this district and the slim margin we have, I feel it's appropriate to try and guesstimate that on some level. So I did increase some, $250,000 increase in subsidy, which is pretty substantial in any given year, but that ended up being a lot more. And on here, much closer.
Any word on the status of PlanCon, and is that still being held hostage to these negotiations.
So the old version of PlanCon is in moratorium. It's dead. It's just being paid out what's left, which we are still the recipient of that money. The new version still has not been funded. I believe the language of what that looks like has been passed, but the funding has been allocated towards it. So in essence, it has no impact on us.
Any other board questions? One quick question, and I think you addressed it, but I might not have heard it because of the air conditioner. For the where we have lower funding, the mental health security grants, do we have recurring costs that were linked to that revenue, or was that just one-time revenue when we received it and we treated it as such?
So it's been recurring the past few years. Before COVID, it didn't exist at all. So it's not something that I would anticipate being in every year. I think there's a finite life to when this grant money runs out. It may even be somehow intertwined with COVID money that's been made available to the state and work this way through the form of a grant through BCCD.
And so we were treating it that way, it sounds like, in general, in terms of.
We use that money to support our students.
Right.
But with one-off
With
projects,
one-off.
not things that were going to be recurring.
So for instance, instead of hiring a nurse, we would hire a counselor, we would hire an outside entity to come in and assist with the schools, not something more permanent.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the public on this item or anything that's been in the presentation so far? I'm sorry I didn't go out earlier.
It was like general.
Yes, and if you can state your name and residence.
Gerville Brown, resident of Elkin Park. Say I'm one-track minded, and interested in, say, a new school being built. From a finance position, is there something that would show that there's a movement towards that, say, in year 10 from now, in terms of looking at your financial statements?
So we're actually in the process of working on a capital plan, and part of that capital plan, we look at what debt service looks like over 25, 30 years, whatever the debt service for a school project might look like. We take an assessment of our enrollment, we take an assessment of what our current capital facilities are, and prioritize it in order of what needs to be replaced. So that would almost be part of the separate future budget forecast and presentation. I think that information is, with me starting at the school district recently within the last year, with Dr. Scriven being in his close to third year, that plan is being put in place so that we have a roadmap moving forward. So we know how to direct our spending and direct our facilities, and also stay in line with the financial constraints of Sheffield Township. So that would be a separate presentation you can expect to see in the near future.
Sorry, being readily available. Say, I'm attending a meeting, I can look at something and say, I see there's a slight change. Is there something that's?
So when this feasibility study and when this capital plan is complete, it becomes a public document. There's public involvement and public feedback as part of this process as well, but that document is not yet complete.
Okay, it exists, it's just that there's a public stage and there's a private stage.
Correct. There's historical versions that are now out of date. So typically you would update a capital plan every 5 or 10 years. Given the amount of change in the construction space, meaning construction costs have gone through the roof in the past couple of years. How do we take our limited resources to address our capital needs? And we kind of formulate a plan as administration, create a couple options, present that to the public, get their feedback, and how does that work out with our finances as well. And that's all put into one document. It becomes a public document, probably here in the near future.
But to further address that question, the historic capital spending and the associated debt service that came with it, that is available on the website, right?
The last capital plan that was done was in 1560, I believe, and that's on the website under facilities page.
It'll give you an idea of what it looked like in the past, and what it's going to look like in
Any other questions? And I assume there's still no Q&A.
All right, that's it. There are no other questions?
I'm seeing none, so I think we're ready to adjourn, correct? So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Henry, second. Mr. Fishbein, all in favor? Sorry.
Aye.
Aye.